gruesome, huh?
I've seen worse.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. If you disagree with me about live action One Piece, leave it in the comments section. I will most likely respond to it. I don't need a shield for my thoughts. Thank you very much. As we all know, Netflix doesn't exactly have a good track record with anime to live action adaptations. In fact, anime to live action really hasn't had many great transitions to begin with. Even with films and shows from Japan, Death Note and Attack on Titan come to mind here, but those versions pale in comparison to the terribleness which is Netflix live-action Death Note and Cowboy Bebop. Those were just so terrible that I couldn't even find much of anything to enjoy about them at all. Well, there were a few things about Cowboy Bebop, but the Americanized Death Note, it's a stain that needs to be erased from history. With all of this in mind, I was not looking forward to live-action One Piece much at all. This is a story from my childhood, which has not let me down yet. I can't say that about a lot of other things. Even other manga and anime from the exact same genre has let me down repeatedly. Just look at Naruto and Bleach. But One Piece was always there, chugging along. I really didn't want to see a bad adaptation of it. And there were things even in the trailers that made me think twice. God love the hardcore fans that believed in this from the start. I wish I could be like them or the Starfield fans. Belief when there is a history proving you wrong, that has to be admired. After all, they willed mild adequateness into existence in both of these instances.
A flying ice cream truck. And live!
Now, for this one, I managed to drag my wife into it, and I have consulted a few friends who have never watched One Piece, or at the very least, they don't remember watching One Piece. And the general consensus from non-fans was that it wasn't bad. There wasn't anything terrible about it. In fact, they liked the different arcs and the characters. They liked the world and where the story was going. It made them interested in watching the anime or reading the manga, and they did. In fact, my wife, who I have been trying to sell One Piece to for years, requested to watch and read all of the arcs from the live action season. And the response from going to live action to the anime was that every single person thought that the anime was better. They liked how things were more flushed out. They liked the character dynamics better. They liked the art style better in both the anime and the manga. But that does not mean that they hated the live action version. I share that exact same mindset. First off, I would like to praise the people behind the scenes for following the outline of the East Blue arc. They didn't drastically change anything. Everything happened as it should have. The writers did not shove in a bunch of nonsense that did not fit into this story. For the most part, they respected Oda's vision, and that needs to be praised to the high heavens. The first thing that I appreciated was the fact that they kept Luffy's powers the exact same. Everything about it functioned the same as the manga. Miss Marvel could learn from this. He was still a rubber man and it all worked as it should have. The same could be said for the other abilities and fighting styles in the series. All of the lore remained intact. They didn't change devil fruits to shaman curses or something else that's equally stupid. The various blues and the grand line remained the same. The seagull newspaper delivery was there. The Denden Mushi weren't changed. Hell, they even made sure that every single character looked like their animated counterpart. You know, as long as it was physically possible. That and the sets were the most impressive thing about this adaptation. They were as faithful could be. If something was going to look like a live action One Piece, this was it. Each of the characters looked and acted appropriately, for the most part. There were a few minor hiccups, but those are for a bit later. Even compared to The Witcher, live action One Piece respected the source material. It's basically as big of a miracle as I could have hoped for. There were people behind the scenes that cared about One Piece, and for that I am extremely grateful.
Whoever you are, thank you.
But, and there is a but here, there are problems. There are reasons that everyone I know still prefers the anime and manga by far. There's this problem with having these cartoony characters, which is something that you can say about Oda's work, being real. A lot of the costumes and designs were very, very accurate, but there's something a little bit weird about seeing it in live action. It makes it hard to get lost in the story when people look even weirder than the rich assholes from the Hunger Games. And while the main actor did a fantastic job, I don't know if Luffy's personality works as a real person. I honestly don't think that this manga in particular adapts well to live action in that regard. Some stories are just best in a certain medium. One Piece is best as a manga/anime. Better Call Saul is best as a live-action show. Ghost of Tsushima is best as a video game, and yes, I'm worried about that one too. This adaptation problem isn't really anyone's fault. Live-action One Piece just feels a little off. It's too anime for normie fans, and it's too normie and western for anime fans. It's a weird problem that really cannot be overcome. This is not going to be anyone's favorite version of the story, but that's inevitable with the transfer between mediums.
I am inevitable.
And that leads to the things that the show actually did change. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that those aspects were the worst parts of the show. For example, instead of getting sucked into a whirlpool, Luffy's boat had a leak at the start. In fact, his vessel looked like garbage. That and Luffy's status as a homeless urchin in Fuchsia Village made me raise an eyebrow. The people of that town really cared about Luffy. They would not let him leave in that hot mess. And this isn't even taking Luffy's foster mother Dan Dan into account. She would have swam out to Luffy and pulled him back to shore if he let in that pile of garbage. It's a small problem, but it's one that really bugged me because One Piece is great because Oda pays attention to the small details. Luffy could have just said that he got caught in a whirlpool later to Kobe if they could not afford one. It's not like the anime actually showed him get caught in it. Another example would be Nami standing up to fight Morgan and Buggy without fear, and her fighting abilities being top-notch, way ahead of where they should be. These types of character changes takes away from her amazing character development over the series. Her victories in the Grand Line will mean less if she doesn't grow from the greedy coward into something more. Nami and Robin's character development within the original series is the best of all of One Piece. And it bugs me that these writers threw that away for momentary gratification. But hey, that's Hollywood. They don't know storytelling anymore, especially when it comes to female characters.
Disappointed!
I was also saddened by some of the things they left out. Scenes with Kobe and Chow Chow come to mind, and my wife actually had a problem with the characterization just a little bit. We thought the anime versions of the characters were more fleshed out and interesting. She also noted a point about Luffy that I ended up agreeing with. In the anime, he is intentionally confrontational at the start of an arc and unintentionally confrontational at the end. The opposite happens in the live action version. This is a pretty big character change in how Luffy functions. Having watched the shows back to back, she had a lot of feedback. In fact, most of the friends that I asked about this said that they were disappointed that the live action left many things out. According to their feedback, basically anything and everything that was different than the original was worse. And these are new One Piece fans. A lot of the feedback was that they were super interested to keep going with the anime into the Grand Line. But they were not as excited for the continuation of the live action show. They might watch more if or when it comes out, but they're more focused on the original source material.
The lore! The lore, guys! The lore! The lore!
In a lot of ways, you might think that this video is negative, but I don't particularly feel that it is. This might be the very first live-action anime adaptation that I think succeeds. This is, in fact, the story of One Piece as Oda intended. It's as close to Oda's vision as it probably was ever going to get from a Western viewpoint. I cannot understate how amazing it is that this is successful at all. The problem is that live action One Piece is just good. Drawn and animated One Piece is phenomenal. There is a better version out there than the live action show, kind of like how The Last of Us still makes a better video game than a television show. Overall though, I am glad that live action One Piece actually exists. It got my wife into the anime. It caught the interest in many different people. Even more fans are growing from this version. In my mind, that's the biggest win we were ever going to get. I don't know if this live action show will get a second season or how far it will potentially go, but I do hope that it continues for a bit so that more people can enjoy Oda's work. You're welcome to disagree with me. That's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion. Please consider giving me a like and subscribing, it would really help me out. And hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my LP Shield books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series, then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.